if you've narrowed your choices to 2 or 3, say,
Yeah.
does the camper have any legitimate input into the choice of camp? What do you think? Or do they visit, or is it really an adult decision?
It's a really, really good question, and something that you see now that you probably didn't see 20 years ago is that children have much more of a voice in that kind of a process. And I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I think that's both bad and that's both good. I think it's important that camp is fun, right? There's all this growth that happens, or all these things that are really critical to youth development, but it ought to be fun. It's not school. And so ultimately, while it's about growth, at the end of the day, it should be something that your child enjoys. With that said, a 12-year-old can't vote, they can't drive a car, and there's certain decisions that perhaps they need some help making. So I think sort of a healthy combination of those things. In a perfect world, if you are looking at a camp, you ought to be looking a year out, right? And so that, let's say you spend a wonderful 2 weeks at Migis Lodge, you could visit 10 camps in the right around Migis. And it's important to talk with the director, ask them their philosophy. There's all sorts of simple questions. How big are you? What's your ratio? What's the living arrangement? Are electronics allowed? There's all sorts of questions that can be asked. But sometimes it comes down to that gut. And what a lot of camps will do is do something called a shadow day, where a child can spend a day at that camp. And that's a really nice thing. They pair them with another boy, that's the shadow, or child in the case of not all boys camps, and they get the opportunity to just really get a feel for what that place is. With that said, not everybody's doing this a year out. Not everyone's heard of a camp a year out, and it's not that uncommon for someone not to have visited a camp before they make a decision to send their child. And that's not unprecedented, and it's not unheard of, but the key is to make sure you're at the very least on the phone with that director or some representative of that camp, and build a comfort level, because that's the most important thing.
Right. One of the observations I've made as an outsider, which is really so impressive and heartwarming, is not too big a word, is to see how attached people are to their camp experience. And they talk about, my daughter, my father, my grandmother, the photographs, the friends, the lifelong relationships. It's really special and very attractive and I suppose this would be a difficult thing to assess visiting or evaluating.
Yeah, but it is and it isn't. I mean, you can sort of get a feel for that, but I think that so many people, for in my case, my best man and the groomsmen were all camp friends. At my wedding, of course, and that's such a common thing to hear. And he was, so some of them I don't like to talk about, but I'm presuming anybody sort of watching this is affiliated with Migis and has a feeling about Migis, and there is definitely a connection there, and I would assume that one of the valuable things about Migis is all these families that have multi-generational experiences there, and that grandparent can sort of sit in the chair and watch the grandchild enjoying this experience that they recall enjoying themselves. And camps have that similar piece to them. A lot of the activities that happen at camp, a lot of the things that go on a day-to-day basis are timeless. And it's really wonderful because you don't have that generation gap. And so many camps have something like color wars or something like that, and the fact that you see 80-year-olds arguing about who won what in 1930 whatever is a pretty neat thing.
Yeah.